These are my cheap sunglasses I got when Igor and I took a trip. I was in Florida at Orlando doing the Disney and Universal thing. And my buddy Igor calls me up and says, "Hey, can you give me the ride to the airport on Friday?" And I was like, "No, I can't. What's up?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to Florida to pick up a car." And I was like, "What are you going to do?" He's like, "I'm going to drive back." I was like, "Ooh, you drive back from Florida?" He's like, "Yeah. You know, I got to get my car for my ex-wife." I was like, "Okay. Well, I'm already in Florida. I'm not visiting your ex-wife, I promise. But I'll drive back with you." So we drove his Audi, was it A3, I think? Coupe, back. And it was, shit, when was that? February or something like that. I can't remember what month it was. And we got like halfway across the country and it was snowing. And the glare was so bad, I had to get some freaking polarized sunglasses. So these are them. Igor, these are our trip sunglasses. Last night, I was talking with some people on Discord last night, and it went from like midnight to 3 a.m. Some guy, I don't even know who the guy is. He's not a super guy, he's not a car guy, he's the dude that we were playing video games with. Is having a bit of a crisis. The poor dude's going through a rough spell with some realizations about religion and society and his parents and his fiance is leaving him. Like, the dude was going through some shit. And like I said, I don't know who the guy is, but I just talked to him for like 3 hours and shared with him as much as I could about what I've learned, you know, about relationships and marriage and life and divorce and, you know, all that stuff. But it started off a bit with like the meaning of life, because the dude's having a bit of an issue with the meaning of life. He'll just go to work 14 hours a day and just keep grinding and that's it for nothing, you know, that kind of thing. Hey, James. So I just talked to the guy for 3 hours and, you know, try to give him encouraging words, try and give him some lessons that I had, you know, and all kinds of stuff, right? One of the things I told him, like, look, man, like, millions of people are going through what you're going through right now. They've gone through it in the past, and millions of people who aren't as strong as you are have made it. Millions of people have done the same thing. They've had their spouses leave them. They've lost everything. I lost my wife and daughter, and it's, you know, in a divorce, and my career, and all kinds of stuff, all crashing down at once. You know, I was like, millions of people that are weaker than you, people that you're stronger than, have gone through this and have made it and survived and come out better in the end. And I was like, I know you can do it. Now, honestly, I don't know this guy at all. I have no idea how strong he is. But from talking to him, it seemed like overall he was a pretty strong dude. You know, but I know that there are weaker people out there, and they have been successful. So I tried to be encouraging, tell him, you know, that he too can and will be successful. But that subject a little bit went to like the meaning of life and the universe, and I believe in aliens, and, you know, like just all kinds of stuff. And so one of the things that I talked about was the Big Bang. And what was funny is during this conversation, at one point he goes, "You're the smartest dude I think I've ever talked to." I'm flattered. I'm like, no, man, I've done a lot of shit. So it was pretty funny. So this is the thing about the Big Bang that's really crazy in the universe. So what I told him is I went to my physics professor a few years ago and I said, "Hey, Doc," we called him Doc. I said, "Hey, Doc, I think gravity's not real, man. I don't think gravity's actually a force." And he was like, "Really? Please enlighten me." And I said, "Well, if you look at the universe, and we've concluded that the universe is expanding, continually expanding, and it's expanding at a higher and higher rate. I was like, that alone proves that gravity isn't a force. Because if gravity was a force, right, and the Big Bang was the initial push, then everything would go away and the expansion would slow, and eventually it would start to contract again. And that's not happening." I was like, and if you look at the way energy moves in the universe, everything moves from high concentration to low concentration. So what does that mean? That means everything is working to expand. Everything is working to separate. And in physics, they call that entropy. They call it chaos. Everything moves from order to disorder. And so I was like, the basic fundamental force in the universe isn't gravity, it's chaos, it's obliteration. Everything is moving towards expansion and obliteration. And yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. So I don't think that gravity is what we think it is. I think gravity is a shielding effect by mass on entropy. So if you think about it, large quantities of mass are large quantities of order. And so if I have big, large quantities of order, of mass, things are tightly packed, they're together, then there's less room for disorder to get in there, right? And so these quantities of mass are shielding everything else from disorder. The expansion force in the galaxy is not able to get in there as well because I have all this mass and order in there. And so I went to my physics professor and I started telling him all this stuff. He laughed at me and said I was crazy and stupid. And then a couple of years later, he approached me. He said, "Hey, I think you were right." I was like, "About what?" He's like, "A couple of years ago, you came to me about this stuff, and I kind of laughed at you." He goes, "But I think you're right. And let's go, motherfucker! Look at this. Like, what are you doing? Let's go. What the fuck are you just sitting here?" People are dumb. And he says, "Wow, okay, take the other lane." Just with oncoming traffic. Pay attention. He said some German. I just turned my fucking AC, my heat down from 84 and it turns itself back up to 84 again. What is that? That's weird. He said some German physicist just released a paper saying pretty much exactly what I said to him a couple of years ago. And he was like, obviously the German physicist's paper was, more eloquently written and had more proof and evidence. But he said basically what he said is exactly what you said, that gravity isn't actually a force, it's the shielding, or I think that they say, he might have said what you're saying, the bending of space and time, and that kind of thing. But essentially the same idea was there, is that it isn't what we think it is, and it's more about the opposite. And I say the opposite. So like my example, what came to me, I was in the shower, because that's where most of my good ideas come from. I was in the shower and I was thinking about submarines. And so submarines right now are so quiet that when you look for a submarine, you don't listen for noise. You listen for a shadow. You listen for an area in the water where there should be noise, but isn't, okay? That's how you find a modern U.S. submarine. You don't listen for choo-choos and clunk-clunks and clang-clangs out there in the water. You're listening for the lack of noise. You're listening for where is there not the sound of the ocean. And that got to me thinking about a lot of other things in life where we actually look for the absence of something that proves the existence of something else. And that's when I was like, oh my God, that's gravity. And we don't know enough right now about antimatter, anti-gravity, entropy. Like, for example, right now, we calculate entropy by calculating everything else that we know about and then saying the rest of that is entropy. That being said, the rest of that we say is entropy could also include many other forces that we don't yet know about, right? So when we go to calculate things like entropy, like we're not doing it, like we're looking for the shadow of it, right? We're looking for the inverse. What's there, and the rest is what we don't know about. Basically, is the kind of theory with entropy, with chaos. And I see that in a lot of things. And if you've heard the missile knows where it isn't, if you guys have heard that vine, basically, it's a similar idea to that, to how missiles calculate where they are based on knowing where they aren't, right? It's the same type of theory behind all that. If you don't know what that is, then please look it up. It's very interesting. Anyway, so now, with that being said, we go back to the Big Bang, right? Right now, everyone thinks that the speed of light is the speed limit of the universe. And everything that we have so far proves that you can go faster than the speed of light. 314,000 meters per second, or what the heck it is. And, sorry, get on the freeway. So I said to this guy, because he was, like, what's the meaning of life kind of thing? And I was like, well, we could be in a computer. And the guy's like, what? I go, well, we could be in a simulation. Well, he's like, what are you talking about? I go, well, in a computer, you have a bus speed. And that bus speed is the limit of your ability to communicate through the computer. And there are several types of communication that go on a computer and happen at different speeds. You have communication speeds with RAM, you have communication with the IDE bus or the SATA bus or whatever, and each one has their limits. I go, and in our world, we have limits just like that. We have the speed of communication via sound. We have the speed of communication via sight, the speed of light. We have, all of these things that affect our rates of communication with these limits. I go, so the speed of light being a limit and the speed of sound being a limit is just like the bus speed of a computer. That's as fast as we can go. And he was like, oh, that's interesting, but, sure, I guess that's one thing. That's one thing. Okay, now check this out. I said, however, during the Big Bang, there was the Great Expansion. And the Great Expansion was a period of time that they say was just microseconds or milliseconds after the Big Bang, where there was the Great Expansion and everything expanded faster than the speed of light. And then, all of a sudden, was going the speed of light. So essentially, we went from nothing to everything. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would all of a sudden, I go fast speed light until now, right? That makes no sense. But what it does sound like is I'm turning on a computer. When that computer is unplugged from the wall, it's off. There's nothing, right? There are no electrons, there are no processes, there's no operating system, there's no memory, there's nothing. But as soon as I hit the power button, for that instantaneous second, as it powers up, there's everything. And the expansion rate, the presence of everything, happens faster than the speed of light because now it is all there. And that, to me, sounds like the Big Bang Theory. That there was nothing, then there was everything, and now there is a new speed limit. There's nothing, there is all your hard drive, all your memory, all your processors, everything is there instantaneously, and then there's your bus speed limit. Sounds exactly the same to me. So I went through it and I go, and the way I thought of that one, believe it or not, was Google. If you've ever seen Google, Google has, or used to have, this counter on their home screen, and it was counting up memory. And it was like available memory for whatever. It was like their claim to fame. We have all this fucking available terabyte space or terabytes of hard drive space or whatever. And I saw that and I was like, man, that's like the universe is expanding, right? It's continually expanding. And that terabyte number just kept climbing, just like the universe. And that's when I was like, holy shit, like we could be in a simulation, right? So that's actually what triggered that thought one day. And I wasn't in the shower. I think I was actually on the shitter. So, my two best thoughts come in the shower and in the shitter. So I tell him this stuff, and he's like, there's a couple guys in chat, and when he was like, oh my God, we live in a fucking computer. I have to go take a break. And everyone was like, holy shit, you blew my fucking mind. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Everyone had to go get a drink, take a break, and come back and like, okay, all right, we're ready. It was pretty funny because I had all this other shit that I was talking about with these bus speeds and speed of light and all that shit. So that was really funny. I see some chat messages coming through. Let me click on these. Let's see. Oh boy. Wally World is buying PBIR. RIP. I don't know what PBIR is. Sorry, I don't know what that means. That's if you're basing gravity on Newton's mechanics. How is that going to work with Einstein's special relativity? Well, it doesn't. I don't think it's much different, honestly, because we still have gravity as the same calculation. We still have that doesn't change, right? The gravity calc doesn't change, and relativity is more about locations and speeds and that kind of stuff. And the limits still apply. The speed of light still applies and all that. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I guess it could be. You're blowing my mind right now. All right, James, I blew my own mind. So understand ringland failure. That's funny. Oh no. That dude's fucking car fucked up all of a sudden. He's like, what is going on? His under tray came undone on the front and he's dragging out the car. He's like, what the fuck? He's like around his car, like, what's going on? So anyways, I want to go back to the second part of my video, and it's called signal speed. So a signal in an electrical circuit travels at the speed of light. But I think that it's technically faster. And however, an electron only travels, I think it's like 42 or 43 meters per second. So if an electron travels way slower than the speed of light, how does a signal travel at the speed of light? I think it's faster. I think it's instantaneous, personally. But I think it's instantaneous, but our ability to observe it is at the speed of light, and therefore we say, oh, it's the speed of light. But I think it's instantaneous. Now, what do I mean by that? How is that? So a signal is often misunderstood as, say, a pipe, an empty pipe, and I drop a marble in it, and it travels through that pipe, and then it gets to the other end. And they're like, okay, well, that's my signal. That's a 1. And then before that, I had a 0. And I drop marbles in as I'm changing states, 1s and 0s. And a lot of people believe that's kind of how a signal works. Turns out that's not true. A signal is a pipe full of marbles, and you push on one end, and they're all touching, and as soon as you push on one, the one at the other end moves, okay? Even like a stick. I could have a stick that's 1,000 miles long, and if I was strong enough, I can push on the end of that stick, and the other end moves with me. Now, that stick could be, a light year long, and I could push on it, and the signal would be faster, would happen instantaneously, even though it was a light year away. It would take light a year to get to the other end of that stick, but I could push it, and I had an instantaneous signal on the other end. And modern physicists say, oh no, that's not true. What would happen is the stick would compress somehow. The stick would compress, and then at the speed of light, eventually you get the signal at the other end. And I think that's false. I think what's happening is that our ability to observe that change is limited to the speed of light, so we see it at the speed of light. Regardless of that, a signal is such. It's a tube with a bunch of marbles or tennis balls in it, whatever you want to call it, and you push it, and then one on the other end moves. The electrons themselves, or the marbles themselves, are only traveling at 42 meters per second. So if you push it at 42 meters per second, right, that's the speed of electron. That's all they're traveling at. But the signal on the other end is at the speed of light, because that's how fast we can witness the change. Thought there actually was a delay on the push and transfer through it. I mean, I'm sure that there are circuits that have delays due to damping or charge coefficients of capacitors, inductors in the circuit, and that kind of stuff. But holy shit, I don't know how big my windshield crack was. But if you were a ideal frictionless, superconductor kind of thing, then you would have no delay. So the obviously I'm talking ideals, and all of that, taking away from because if I had a superconductor, then there's no resistance. If I have no outer or influencing magnetic fields to act upon the electrons and their travel, I have nothing to slow them down. If I have, I'm saying, like all these things. If I have, because you could push on it, and technically you can get a ripple as well from compressing magnetic fields as one reacts to the other, reacts to the other, reacts to the other, things like that. Sorry, roundabout coming up, and people can't drive in roundabouts, so here goes was nothing. This is where everyone treats it like a stop sign. Let's see. Oh, okay, this guy's not bad. Not bad. It is pretty packed. No one's making it through this one. Let's see. How long does he sit and wait? He could go now. Like, I think he could have made that. He could definitely beat that van out, but he ain't trying. He could definitely beat that Dodge out, but he ain't trying. After the Honda, is he going to go quickly? Oh, he goes quickly. Okay, all right. Cool. Is he guys going to stop? Is this fucking dude going to stop? Nope. All right, look at this. That's some fucking good roundabout usage right there. I should have went. I'm going now, though. That was actually really good. I'm super impressed. Must have been a row of men driving those cars. I had to say it. Fuck. Let me get back. Gets back my ugly mug. The whole electricity through a single wire thing. Okay, good. So we covered that. Bro, I'm U.S. Marines that failed the ASVAB. That's funny. That's funny. I thought I broke it down pretty easy. Did I do a bad job at that? Uh-oh. Weird. Let's see. So anyways, signals travel at the speed of light. That's what we're told. And obviously ideal circuits, signal travel at the speed of light, even though electrons travel at 42 meters per second. And so if you take in delays, like I said, charge, discharge coefficients, capacitors, which technically well, capacitors are done to create a time delay anyways. No, I just don't believe you. Oh, okay. So like a capacitor inductor in a circuit is done to produce a delay or to produce a damping effect anyways based on this AC or DC. And you can time the delays, the damping, or the amount, whether it be amplitude or frequency, based on the impedance and the capacitance or inductance of whatever part of the circuit you have in there. Obviously, electrical circuits can be very complex. Some can be really simple. So if it's a straight wire signal, then you just have how long does it take energy to transfer from one to the other and that kind of thing. In physics, we go through the transfer of signals and we say it's the speed of light. But obviously in physics, we're often dealing with ideals unless we specifically put in, different types of losses and frictions, like say, air friction. We often deal with a projectile through the air, and we do it with ideals in a frictionless plane and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually we might add in a tau based on a coefficient of friction for air or a sliding friction on something. But in physics, you start off with, this is an object on a frictionless plane in a vacuum kind of thing to get the basic idea of how things are going to behave and react with each other. And then the next step is, if you're doing a complex derivation of an actual scenario in the real world, is you add in the taus, or the mu's, I should say, sorry, not tau, the mu's of whatever type of friction you have, be it air friction or sliding friction or, whatever. Bearing frictions, which is a sliding friction, or windage, which is a type of air friction, things like that. So most of the theory in physics starts with ideal and then moves. Internet is a series of tubs. Series of tubs. Internet is a series of tubs. If you're going from scam to scam and you're getting hosed, I guess it could be a series of tubs. Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean by that. That's tubes. Oh, that could be. Sure. I get that. All right, my tier 1 now. I got to tune a car today. I got to do a cam treatment. I got my truck today so that I can pick up my engine for the red car. we are fucking, I say we, but they are fucking full today. There's a lot of cars here. I think I might be able to fit there. Let's find out this big booty girl can fit between these two cars. Probably not. Do I have anybody fucking body work? Oh yes. Fat bottom girls. That's it. That's all we got. All right. That's pretty close. Look in the mirror there. That's as far as I can go. All right. Series of tubes. That's pretty good. YouTube. I think one of those tubes, right? Just kidding. All right. So now I'm here at the shop. I got work to do. I just wanted to talk to you guys about what happened last night, the Big Bang, how it relates to, in my mind, a computer being turned on, signal speeds, and things like that. Yeah. Any other questions about that other than Nick not believing me? The best medium for me to try and discuss what I meant. Oh, not the best medium. Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, check this out. Oh, I showed yesterday. I made little videos about my damper and all of that. So here's obviously one of my pulleys. And here is my damper on a dry sump pulley. If you guys didn't see the short videos I took yesterday, this one's a damaged one that got damaged in shipping. Let's see here. There we go. So this one, there's a little rattle to it. So we're going to tighten those up on the final production models. But where's it go? There it goes. That's in. And then it'll bolt to the pulley in these 4 spots here. This one doesn't sit flush because this pulley got damaged. You can see how it holds away the damper. So I'm going to file that down today and sell it to somebody who said they wanted me to sign it. So I'm going to knock that nub down so that if the person decides to buy the damper as well, then it'll fit flush on there once I get testing for the damper done. I sent the air water intercooler and tank models to the foundry. So I finalized those yesterday because I finally got the air water intercooler core in and got to take the measurements off of it, what it actually is. Finalized my design and sent those off to the front. To do that. So done. I will use various. That was weird. The design that I found lacked the tunability that this has. It lacked the movement of fluid through chambers and the multi-stage aspect of it. And the other one had springs in it. So that one was definitely different, but I've been digging through a bunch of patents trying to make sure that this one isn't infringing on an existing patent. I found one that, like I said, it was close, but not the same. So that was good. But there could be another one that's even closer. So I probably should look at that before I built the product. But regardless, I'm pretty certain that this is going to be unique enough. I know that there's nothing on the market like this. There's not a single damper on the entire automotive market that works like this one does. None. So that's good. But that could be because somebody owns the patent and is sue happy. And I haven't witnessed that yet. But like Evans Cooling owns reverse cooling, and if you reverse cool your engine and advertise reverse cooling, you can anticipate getting sued, like Chevy did with the LT. I know in my reverse cooling video I said that the LT and the LS are both reverse cooled. I was wrong. I went and looked at it further and found out that no, the LS is not reverse cooled. The LT is reverse cooled. Then Chevy got sued, and so they did not reverse cool the LS. So it's a bummer for LS guys because you could definitely get some gains reverse cool in the LS.
the new Subarus, the FAs, they're not reverse cooled either, but they kind of are. The fluid goes into the block first, but only goes through a small area of the block, and then goes into the head, and then goes into the bulk of the block. So I think they got around the reverse cooling lawsuit by having it technically flow through part of the block first, but they have these little teeny holes that flow into the cylinders on one side, then go all the way into the head, and then come out of the head and go into the rest of the engine block. And I think that they got away with basically reverse cooling the FA without it being called reverse cooling, so they don't get sued. So good on Subaru for engineering a good fix for that. I'm proud of them. Thank you, Subaru, for being cool and trying to be on the cutting edge of technology and shit like that. So, anyways, I'm going to work. I appreciate you guys stopping by and checking out my products, listening to me yap about physics, the Big Bang, and signal speed. And I'm glad that Nick is going to try and challenge me on some of that. I appreciate it. And that's it. Have yourselves a good day. Thanks for stopping by.